I can't believe you didn't put me on back to back and I have a gap in the middle.
No, you don't. We're not doing voting booths.
We're not?
Nope. We're paying for them outside of one-time costs, so they're outside of capital, so you're good.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Hi, Sam.
Just saved us 20 grand.
Did.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. How are you, Jason?
I'm surviving.
Just surviving?
Yes, just surviving.
Maybe one of these days it'll get better. We're waiting for Susan right now, so we'll give her a minute or two. So hopefully she'll be here.
Is it raining down there?
Where?
Wherever, down in Cohasset. I'm up in Maine.
Oh, well, we're gonna get a northeaster and it's gonna blow.
I think it's raining everywhere.
Yeah,
It's not raining up here.
Just wait. It's New England, Lee. Just wait 15
Yes,
minutes.
it was.
you must be expecting some giant water department crisis to disappear in Maine.
No, we
Higher
wanted to
ground.
alleviate a water crisis by coming up to Maine and shutting down the camp before things happened.
Ah,
Seems like the weather is finally turning.
well, it's coming.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to suggest we get started. I'll start keeping minutes. And we'll go from here. So Lee, the floor is yours on the water main on Margin Street. So if you could explain to us where that starts and where it goes to, because I'm not sure what end of Stockbridge Street you're talking about.
Oh, well, this is why Jason is on this call. He is our technical
Aha.
assistant to give us all the details.
Thank you guys for having us, or ladies and gentlemen for having us. So the project's picking up where the other project ended, which is at the island at Elm Street, Margin Cove location. And it's going to the first intersection with Stockbridge Street, not the second, Sam.
To where?
The first intersection on Stockbridge Street, not the second.
Well, what do you, which end of Stockbridge Street? The
The
end
first
closest-
intersection coming from the intersection of Cove Road on Margin Street. So the
basically-
500 feet, we're going 500 feet.
It's the length of the motel, right?
Yes,
Okay.
from the motel to,
It's
Two-
ending right
no,
past the motel.
from the island, we ended at the island.
yeah,
So we're picking it up from the island and going to basically, like Mike said, to the end of the hotel,
right at the motel.
to Stockbridge Street, the first intersection on Margin Street of Stockbridge Street.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I wasn't clear.
So that 500 feet there, we weren't in the, in line with Carl's paving plan. He had said he was paving Elm Street, and ends up he's paving Margin as well. So that portion of Margin Street is still, old pipe. The remaining portion is, a more recent vintage. So we're just looking to finish off the project, that we started, that has started already out there.
But you still have old pipe going from one end of Stockbridge to the other end?
Yeah, but I mean, old and Cohasset is a relative term. that the pipe we're replacing is from the 1800s.
Right.
The pipe that's in place is probably from the 70s forward.
Is it cast iron or is it,
Ductile iron, we believe.
excuse me?
I believe it's ductile iron.
Okay, so it's subject to rusting.
Yeah, I mean, we can only do so much though, Sam. I mean, we
No,
have a
I
limited budget.
understand.
So
I understand, but you've done mostly Atlantic Ave, right?
as far as replacement,
Yeah,
there's sections of Atlantic Ave that are still old. That's on the capital plan for from the bridge to the beach parking lot in 2 years.
okay. I think I understand now.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
We have been asking about repaving on Atlantic Ave from Howard Gleason Road out past Dean. What's the name of the lane?
It's Whitehead Road. Mike.
That's
Whitehead
being
Road.
paved as part of this too, Mike. We just
Okay,
don't have
so-
old mains there.
So those are not going to get paved because we were told that,
We are,
Yeah.
we're paving, so it goes from, it's gonna go from the police station all the way around to Whitehead.
Okay.
and this is part of that project.
We're replacing the water main before they do the paving.
The paving is DPW.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
what's confusing me is water main replacement from the corner of Stockbridge Street and Margin Street by the motel, the end of the motel, around the bend, past
Can I-
Howard Gleason Road. What
No.
about that water main? What
That,
happens
that,
to that?
that water main is a more recent vintage, Mike.
And so it's intact and it needs no work, and we can repave Margin all the way around, including the stretch from Atlantic and Howard Gleason to Whitehead Road.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. That answers that question.
I
Yeah,
have
the question-
another question.
Okay,
Once-
okay, go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead, Ralph. No, you go ahead.
Okay, just a quick one. Jason, you're certainly aware there's an Elm Street renewal project or some other name given to that renewal. Will you try to pave Elm Street before you actually get some agreement on the neighbors as to what in fact will be done there? As well as the other big question, when you've got the Cohasset Hospitality Partners also redoing their work, you got an awful lot of work going on over there. And are you going to try to pave before all of that is figured out?
The goal hopefully is to get consensus on Thursday at our next Elm Street Corridor Working Group meeting with the public.
Okay,
So the goal is to get consensus there as to what the goal of that project is for the town, and then move it forward as expeditiously as possible, Ralph.
okay,
But realistically, the goal would be to do them all at the same time.
okay.
Like do the paving in conjunction with a corridor project. If funding's there for the corridor project is the other piece. As we all know, money is money. So the goal would be to do both projects at the same time.
That makes sense. Yep.
Okay, but one other thing, Ralph, you have to understand that we put off our portion of the water main here on Elm Street. Was it for a year and a half, Jason? Because it was supposed to be paved previously and they kept moving the paving down the road. And we've had 2 major breaks there already. So we're very happy that we're able to do this now and get it cleaned up and then let them pave whenever they can.
Oh, I agree with that. No question, Lee. Right.
One question. Excuse me. After you spend this estimated 100,000 on this last part here, how much are you going to have left in retained earnings?
It's 150 now. I increased it today in the most recent submittal. The reason why I increased it is it looks like we're gonna have a significant amount of rock as we go from right around the intersection of Margin Court there. It's basically all ledge based on the old sewer drawings. So we increased it just to cover that question mark. And retained earnings, we're at 1.4 million right now in retained earnings uncertified. So we'd have 1.25.
250.
Yeah, but you're spending some of that on Elm Street, right?
That's already been taken out of that retained earnings.
Oh, you've already been taken out. Okay. So you'll have over $1 million in retained earnings then.
Yep.
Okay.
So Jason, the 1.2 million or 2.5 million of retained earnings, how much of that is already committed to other projects that are not yet completed?
None.
Okay.
As soon as we vote to take something out, Dawn takes it out, creates
It's
the
out.
article, and it goes out of retained earnings.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions from Capital?
None.
Just a quick one for either Jason or Lee. Are there any lead pipes in the system whatsoever that you're aware of?
Yes, we are. We actually encountering in this portion some lead. Lee's service that was just pulled out on Jerusalem Road had a lead gooseneck. So the problem with what's happened in the past in Cohasset, when they did some of their projects, they didn't always replace everything. So we're now, everything we're going to do in the future is going to be from the property line to the property line. You know, everything inside the town layout will be replaced. There's not going to be anything left in the ground once we're done, other than we're abandoning the old main in place. But we're not going to be leaving lead corporations, old iron pipes in the layout. So that's what we're running into Beechwood right now. That's why you'll see me in a couple, maybe a month on Beechwood Street, because all those services are all becoming pressure issues. Their service lines are all corroded. So we're going to be coming in and replacing Beechwood Street ahead of paving next year.
And we are hoping and praying that nothing happens in the rest of the town as what happened to me. Because, Carl is redoing Jerusalem Road from Bow Street down where they did the gas main. And there was a bad shutoff in front of my house that had to be fixed. And when they fixed it, that's when they found that other problem that would turn from a 1-day project to a 3-day project. And it was
Wow.
extremely costly.
Well, when you're dealing with a lot of old pipe, you
I know.
run into all kinds of things. And the only good thing about lead is it didn't rust the way cast iron does.
Yeah, it's
But
just
it
the
also
after effects
gets
of the
into your
lead.
system, so that's not good.
Rust
Anybody
on the
have
brain.
anything else for water?
Just really an educational question. This probably isn't relevant to the capital request, but I'm just curious, Jason. What's the logic behind abandoning the old main in place as opposed to pulling it up and using the channel that's already cut for it?
It's a money thing. It's a balancing act, Brian. If you're going to pull it out, you have to do temporary bypass piping. So you have to run a pipe down both sides of the road, tie everybody's houses into it, have temporary fire hydrants set up.
Got it.
People tend to complain because you got a big lump in your driveway, bottom out a car, that kind of issues. So we're going to
the
be
bottom
doing.
line is you build a parallel system and then you cut people over as they hook onto it. Okay.
Yeah. So
Got it.
Beechwood Street, we're probably going to be doing the bypass piping because of the amount of ledge up there. So Elm Street, we hit a little bit of ledge at the start. We're going to hit a little bit of ledge in the end, but in the middle, it's been good, smooth running, knock on wood. So places like that, you remove, you can abandon in place. Beechwood Street, where we're probably going to see a lot of ledge, we'll probably do bypass piping and pull the pipe out and put the pipe back in the trench.
Got it.
Jason, I'm just curious on the engineering and the technique, because I don't know much at all about it. You referenced an old sewer drawing as indicating that there was ledge there. Is the current state of the art, though, using modern technology to penetrate the ground and see what's under there?
Sadly, we're still in the 1970s of technology when it comes to engineering. We go out and drill. So if there was if we were going to put in a water main for like Beechwood Street, and we were going to not remove and replace, we go out and do borings. So you drill down every 50, 100 feet spacings and determine how deep the rock is. You can do other options, but the most accurate way to do it is still drilling.
Okay, thanks. And then one more question comes to mind, and that is with your 1+ million left in retained earnings and more water main replacement that you've just indicated is coming, how good is that amount of money left? How much would we need to add to that reserve? Or I'll take that word back. How much of that balance will you need? And how much beyond that balance will you need to do the work that you're projecting that isn't on the proposal now, but will be coming?
We're going to be borrowing for the majority of those bigger projects, Mike. We may use retained earnings at time to cut down on the borrowing amount. But I think we're looking at $2 million worth of projects next year. A little over 2 million, actually. So that's not, the retained earnings is going to cut it there. So,
Right. And will that outlay be plugged into some kind of either 3 or 5 year projection for us?
yeah, so it'll get plugged into it was already in the rate study the previous time and in the capital plan. We actually juggled some streets around based on the updated paving plan. But the money's all pretty similar to what we did with the rate study. So yes, it's in the projections with the rate study.
Great.
and what we just implemented as far as the rates.
Good, thank you.
Anybody have any more questions on the water main replacement? Oh, Lee, Steve, Jason, thank you very much.
And John
You're welcome
Steinmetz
to
is here.
stay if you want to listen to AED deliberations.
John's here too.
I just joined. I'm a little late. Sorry about that.
That's all right. You're forgiven.
Thank you.
Hey, Sam,
Yes?
just a quick question. Given these are special town meeting requests, and this seems to be, agenda seems to cover all of them. What's your plan for voting? Are we voting tonight? Are we voting at a future date?
Well, I thought I'd probably vote at a future date originally, but as of today, we don't have to do anything with the voting booths. So once we get through the AEDs, we can make a decision whether we want to vote or not.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if we'll still have more questions or not, or, you know, I hate to say we definitely will, but I think we've got enough information on the water main replacement at this point, unless anybody thinks we haven't. And
It strikes me as pretty straightforward. I don't think we've given them any follow-up requests, so it
No,
seems
I don't have
complete at
any.
this point. And
If you need me before the end of the night, Michelle can text me too. I can jump back on.
okay, but Sam, I don't know if you want to vote them all at the end or if you want to just vote them as we go. What?
well, we've got some time right now, so we can deal with the water main.
Just seems logical. It feels done to me unless anyone has
Right, I
any
mean, let's
lingering
be
issues.
efficient. Let's get done what we can get done, so we don't wait for 10 minutes for the police and fire.
Well, there you go.
So,
Does anyone have any other questions or concerns about this before there's any motion to vote?
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Then I'd like to, I move we approve the water department's request for $150,000 for water main replacement on Margin Street.
I'll second.
second, Michael seconds it.
Yep.
Sam Wakeman, yes. It's a roll call vote, so you have to announce yourself and your position.
So do you want to go around and ask each of us?
Yeah, Michael,
Aye. Michael Dick, aye.
Brian,
Brian Host, aye.
Ralph Dormitzer,
Well, I'll say aye, Sam, but of course, my vote counts only if we don't have a quorum with somebody else, okay?
yeah,
The answer
I
is aye.
understand that,
Okay,
but you're here, so
all right.
you might as well
The answer
get
is
your
aye.
opinion.
All right, got it, thanks.
Okay, so we recommend it for a
We need
vote
Francine's
of
vote.
3-0, which will which is
Uh,
three
Sam-
is a quorum.
Sam,
Oh,
you need
Francine,
Francine.
your Lisa is Jackie. I didn't understand.
I know.
You stole your kid's computer.
He stole mine.
Oh, Francine.
Francine Lyons, aye.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Good night.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everybody on the water department.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody has anything else at this point while we're waiting.
How about going through the calendar for the fall, just in general terms?
The what, Michael?
Our calendar for capital budget committee.
Well,
Town
I
meeting is what?
think
the
in
middle of-
another week or two, Michelle will have all the requests for the annual town meeting. Am I correct, Michelle?
You are correct.
And then what I will do when I get those is try to start our hearings. I'm going to assume we'll be through as of tonight on the special town meeting. I don't think we're going to have much more to do. I know we
Okay.
have enough money in the capital stabilization fund to cover the 20-odd thousand police and fire want for AEDs if we approve them. Or
Mhm.
if we recommend them. So that's the rough calendar. And then we have special town meeting December, is it 13th?
December 13th, yes.
And after that, we're into fiscal year 23.
Well, okay.
And we also, at some point, want to think about reorganization, I think. We've got Ralph and Mike swapped. So that was one thing we got done.
Mhm.
I'm getting to a point where I wouldn't mind stepping down as chair. So you should think about who else you might want as chair. My guess is that Susan's probably had it being secretary and would like some relief. So that's the
Well,
what things look like going forward.
I'll take on the secretary minutes and so forth.
Do we want to try to vote that reorganization tonight, or do we want to put that off?
Sam, it strikes me we should have that on the agenda, or on an agenda when we do that.
Excuse me?
It seems to me that we should have that as a listed
It should be
agenda
on the
item.
agenda, yes.
So I think it's,
And I think,
You want to try to meet early for the special town meeting and do that? Can we do that, Michelle? It doesn't get too complicated.
It doesn't. You can meet early. You still have several weeks before special town meeting if you just want to throw a reorganization meeting on the calendar.
Yeah.
It likely won't take long. Happy to host it for you and you can just,
Okay,
deliberate
well, why
then.
don't I'll figure out a Monday evening to do that in the next couple of weeks. And
Sam, we might be able to piggy that with just a preliminary sort of take inventory discussion around the fiscal 23 requests that we should have in hand by then as well.
yeah, so we might want to take them and divide them up so people can do further research on them.
Sure. Identify what our hot issues may be on and anything that's controversial, start to get feedback to whoever the requesters are before they even come in and present.
Well, it sounds like from what Michelle's told me, not telling me any of the individual requests, but we're going to have far more requests than we have money, unless we can get Chris to give us extra funds.
Well, are you going to take the same approach as you did last year, whereas you're going to assign a member to a specific department? Because that
Yes.
seemed to work out well last year.
Yeah, I think that works out well, and it lets people get into that department and understand the priority within the department of the various requests. I mean, some are must-have and some are wishful.
I find perhaps the greatest benefit of these liaison meetings is to simply prepare the requesting party for the key issues and the key, you know, the most difficult questions that they can expect when they actually come in front of the entire committee. And it just saves them repeat trips if they come in prepared, knowing the types of things we're going to ask.
Yeah.
So, you know, Michelle, just extending on your thought about liaisons, I did note that the school board has a facilities committee that's been formed.
Yes.
And that there's a meeting taking place tomorrow. In a perfect world, I would love to zoom into that, but I actually have a conflict. So two questions. First one for you, Michelle. Would it be constructive if someone from capital budget did zoom into that?
Yes.
And then the second question is for the broader group is, you know, does anyone have interest and or availability to zoom into that? Unfortunately, again, I'm conflicted tomorrow night.
I am open tomorrow night.
So Mike, I can send
I'm
whoever
open
the
tomorrow
link.
night.
And Francine, you were a school liaison last year, and I know you've children in the system or had children in the system. Is it something that that you would want to do? Because I don't think we want to have more than 2 people.
No.
I was last year, and I will continue to have kids in the system for the next several years.
Okay.
So yes, I would like to participate in that.
Yeah, so tomorrow
Okay,
night
so
I can
I
just,
will not. Mike and Francine will participate if that's okay.
Okay.
That's great. The agenda's posted. There should be a Zoom link. You guys can just pipe in.
I can also send it along. But tomorrow night I can tell you what's going to take place is the facilities group is going to come together. We have actually John Lemieux from Vertex, who most everyone's familiar with, and he is going to give a brief presentation on MSBA funding and how to approach it and how it all works.
Okay.
Because I believe there isn't an ask yet, but I believe they've been talking about, a feasibility study and what is needed to do a feasibility study. And John's just going to kind of set the tone as to, don't put the cart before the horse. Let's go through the process as it's deemed, and let's see where you are. So that's what's going to happen tomorrow night.
Could you
So
explain
when you,
that? Because
Sorry,
I'm completely unfamiliar with what you're talking about.
Okay, so anytime you approach building a new school or renovating a new school, there's the Mass Building School Association. So it is Mass Building, Mass Building.
yeah, MSBA.
Yep. And they review all requests, and they're almost a funding mechanism. So they fund based on need for each building, whether it's a renovation or a rebuild. There's a lot of factors that go into how they do fund a project. We learned quite a bit from John just speaking to him last week about funding, because a lot of people are under the impression that we're going to get 40% or 30% or even 20%, but it really is 20% of X value. It's not 20% of an entire project. So he's just going to highlight some of those things so everyone has a better understanding. And there are some questions that need to be answered before we even beginning the process. And the first step in the process, the way I understand it, is filling out a statement of interest. And if they deem your project to be suitable for their program, then you move on to the next round. The statement of interest is lengthy, not difficult, but there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And in order to answer them, you have to have an intimate knowledge of the school and why you're requesting a new building or a renovation. So he's gonna go through that process, and we'll see what how everyone feels at the end of it.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like MSBA would start with the same question that we would start with.
Most likely.
So we really need to participate in that study or be well aware of it.
Right.
Yeah. I think anytime there's something this big in town, I'm just like town hall building, the more people that are involved in the beginning, the better the outcome, whether it goes the way in which you want it to go or it doesn't. People are informed, they understand the project, they understand, the implications. So more involvement, I think the better off everyone is.
Yeah, Michelle, I also think that there's there are many lessons that have been learned through the multiple cycles of the town hall building process. And I think it's important that, if the school is going to undertake an attempt to build a new building, that they not recreate the wheel and potentially make a lot of the same mistakes that were made on the earlier iteration of the town hall project.
Right.
I mean, I don't really want to get into any details. It's just, we're getting close to getting it done, and the process is running very well. And I think that's as a result of, the lessons that have been learned along the way. So, when you flip over to the school, it's a completely new group of people with none of that sort of history. And I think I think there'd be high risk of repeating mistakes if we don't somehow get a Vulcan mind meld and transfer that knowledge over.
Right. And I mean, they're certainly open to it. I think it's an excellent group of people that are involved. And I think, like I said, the more feedback and
Right.
the more that they can gain from other projects, I think they'd be open to.
Brian, would you be willing to put together a short piece on what those pitfalls were that people don't know about?
What
Let
goes?
me think about the best way to do that. I mean, the answer is whatever is most helpful. Let me think about that. I mean, what I had in mind as I was sort of making the suggestion was that, they should probably bring in, in perhaps non-committee meetings, but in some one-on-ones or small group meetings where, you don't have the pressure of an audience or a formal discussion, and just have a heart-to-heart, between a couple members on this new committee and perhaps, several of the folks that were on the committees in each of the prior iterations of town hall, and just ask them, what worked, what didn't, how did it evolve to a point where it's ultimately, appears like it's going to be getting done this time.
Okay.
I'd almost rather they hear it from the committees, but I'm certainly, happy to share, my view as well in one of those small group discussions. I think if we start, swapping paper or doing formal committee meetings, that actually was one of the big pitfalls along the way. I think people got dug in on positions and, just as a result of the formality of some of the meetings that were taking place.
That's
Just a
good advice.
perception.
Mhm.
Michelle, you haven't heard from either Chief
So
Sylvia or Quigley, have you?
I have. So we were in a meeting today, and I think due to preparation for the storm and what can happen, I'm going to present on their behalf for the AEDs this evening. So
Oh, you are?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we're
You
past our time to start, so go ahead.
okay.
On
So
the this is on AEDs, right?
yes. So police and fire are both in need of AEDs because theirs have run their useful life. The big question here is, do we fund them now at special town meeting, or do we fund them at annual town meeting? If we fund them now, the supplier is willing to give us a credit on our old units that they will not give us in the spring.
Do we
So-
know how much that credit is?
Yep. So for all the units that we're purchasing, the price that you have is a reflection of a discount of $7,000. If in fact we wait and do this at annual town meeting, the cost will increase by $7,000. Also something to note in those requests is added to, one of them is 1 unit for the DPW because they've been running without one. And really OSHA and safety guidelines suggest there needs to be one there. The fire department did go through all town buildings, including the schools, to make sure that they weren't in need elsewhere, and everyone else's are still up to code and do not need to be replaced. So this is for all the units for the police department, fire department, and 1 unit for the DPW.
I had a total figure of 28,349 from the request. That's what I added up on the requests.
I think it's $30,706. I don't know why that sticks in my head, but
So, but if we do it now, we get a $7,000 saving?
nope,
No.
that price you have is a reflection of the $7,000 savings.
The 30,000,
Yes,
roughly, we'll call it 30,000. Okay, so without that, it would be 37,000.
correct.
Okay.
So Michelle, why, I'm just curious why the manufacturer is offering a $7,000 rebate today. Is it because there's still some hypothetical, a couple months of life left in the old units before they're,
That's
before they,
That's right. They have a couple of months before they truly expire, but the
Mhm.
way that our meetings and our funding period is set, that if we miss December and we wait until May, we will have missed that. Not to say that they will completely fail by then, but you still want to take advantage of this discount that they're offering us.
sure. When do the devices technically expire?
I believe it's February, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so we wouldn't even be placed, we wouldn't even be appropriated until the beginning of December. We'd play, by the time we place the order and receive the devices, when do you expect them to arrive?
Well, based on today's supply chain, when we got the original quote, the lead time was a matter of days. I believe it was 10 to 12 days. What we're hearing about supply chain now, it could be 3 to 5 weeks. So
Okay. So see them in January, somewhere.
Yeah.
And they expire in February and we're getting $7,000 back to do it now. It seems to me we'd have a liability issue if our devices were technically expired after February. I mean, they may or may not, they're not just going to fail, but it seems to me if one did, we would potentially have liability for having expired units. So
Possibly, but the right thing to do is to replace
just
them.
replace them. Yeah.
And we're gonna save $7,000 by replacing them now instead of waiting until we absolutely have to replace them.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to make sense to me. but-
Yeah, Michelle, just, I don't know if this is a question or a request, but conceptually, I want to make sure that we don't buy, if they've got, two or three generations that are still in manufacture right now. I just want to make sure we don't, save ourselves a few bucks by buying the last generation because, or the penultimate generation, because that generation will reach the end of its shelf life sooner than the current generation, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yep, I
So let-
completely understand what you're saying. So I'll
Yeah,
pass that
let's
along
just-
to the chiefs and make sure that
Yeah.
when they request, they get that information.
Let's make sure we buy the units that have the absolute longest service life available so that we're not seeing the request any sooner than we would otherwise.
Makes complete sense.
Does anybody have any questions on the AEDs?
Yeah, well, Sam, I had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
This is for Michelle, of course. Michelle, I only saw 18 units being purchased for the police department, which was, you had given us as information. I have no idea how many the fire department are asking for. And then the second question is exactly where are these all going? That's a lot of units all, even for the police department. What are we doing with 18 of them?
Great question, and I don't have the answer to where they're going. But I
Wasn't
can-
there something in the documentation that I'm on, aren't I? Yeah. That they're going into all the patrol cars,
Right.
all the different emergency response vehicles. That to me sounded like about the right number without, detailing one after the other. But I'm just going by what I read.
Ralph, I have a request, a quote that the fire department got for 7 of these units. So I'm assuming that the total will be 25, 18 for the police and 7 for fire,
Plus 1 for DPW.
Okay, so the question is,
and 1 for DPW?
Yep.
okay, so how many active patrol cars do we actually have that need 18 of these?
Well, we have 4 patrol cars per se. Then we have animal control officer. Oh boy, I'd have to look it up to give you them all.
So just off the top of my head, I can go through most of this, but I think we have somewhere around 13 or 14 in total, Ralph, is the short answer. And they're all equipped. They don't pull this stuff in and out of the cars. They're all equipped. So to Sam's point, I think we've got 4 patrol cars. We've got an animal control officer. We've got, a school resource officer who has a car. We've got at least 2 detectives. And then we've got, we've got the chief and we've got the assistant.
The deputy.
The deputy chief or what I should know the next title down. I don't. I apologize. So right there, we're at what, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. I'm missing 1 or 2.
Does Harbor Master have any?
So the harbor master does have 1 that does not
Yeah.
need to be replaced, it was just replaced over the summer.
Anyway, I think someone needs to say, where are these all going? Animal control officer does not even work in this town. He actually was in Norwell and we share with Norwell or something of the sort. So there are really some questions when you have 18 of them and you can't calculate need for 18. So the question is, are these all needed? And in fact, would all of these people actually be first responders? So
Yeah.
it's really important not to exaggerate what we have, because come 5 years from now, when the warranty is out, people will say, we have to replace every one of them. So this continues to be a long-term, you keep adding and adding and adding in these cases. So the real question is first responders for sure. But beyond that, got to prove that they really have to have that many. So.
I will ask Chief Quigley for a list of exactly where they're going, and I'll forward it to the group.
Thanks.
And I'm guessing with the fire department, it's the same. There's probably 1 in every truck and probably 1 in each ambulance.
Yeah,
That gets you to 5 right there.
Yeah, that's straightforward. The fire department is straightforward. They're the people who actually probably are going to use the defibrillator anyway. It's the police having so many vehicles where in fact you've got 18 for the police and 7 for the fire department. Seems like a very odd distribution to me. But anyway, just
One
find
of,
out what
Ralph, one of the, not to sort of advocate or either direction, one of the little known facts is that the police usually get there first.
I know that.
And when you're talking about a coronary arrest, they can't wait for the fire truck to show up with a defib. So,
but that's a bigger question. That's a diagnostic question. That's not a first responder question. You don't absolutely apply a defibrillator to
Right.
somebody you don't know has a heart problem. I mean, you got to really know something. You got to be you should be a medic of some sort in order to actually know what to do here. This is not something you apply willy-nilly. So, I mean, that's a shock system. So.
I just went back and looked up the number of vehicles on a fiscal year 20 police report and had 12 vehicles.
Yeah, sounds more like
But,
it.
I don't know if it's changed since then or what it is. We need to find that out.
Okay.
I'll get that information and forward it along.
Thanks, Michelle.
Sure.
Good question, Ralph.
Yeah. We don't want to have to buy some of these and have them sitting around.
Well, that's for sure.
Any other questions at this point?
Nope.
I'm going to suggest that we defer a vote on the AEDs until we get the additional information. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we should ask the fire department for the same inventory.
Yeah,
Okay. So I'll ask both for the same information. Is it possible that we have a quick meeting next Monday to vote this, just so we can get it before the select board for the final vote to print the warrant?
when's the warrant going to press?
I believe the 9th of November.
Yeah, we can probably, I mean, are people available next Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll post an agenda then.
Okay, and I'll make sure I get that information to you tomorrow, so you have time
Okay,
to,
that'd be great.
and if you have any questions, just shoot them back to me and I'll get the answers.
Okay,
Thank you.
and the only other thing I had was, we have some draft minutes from July 26th. I don't know if anybody's looked at them or not. I have.
I did not, Sam.
I did not.
Okay, well, why don't we I'll put that on the agenda for next Monday, if everybody can look at them. Our meeting on June 28th, I don't have any minutes on it, but it was basically a discussion on town hall and trying to push some, I think, definitive. Hold on a minute. I got too much stuff here.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I don't.
So we might have the answer to the police question on AEDs after just looking at something quickly.
Okay.
Just tell you, it says every cruiser is equipped with an AED. The booking room, police garage, and lobby are also equipped with them.
So
So
that's
those,
three units in the station plus the fleet,
yep.
So that's 12 plus 3 is 15.
15.
I'm trying to look up something right now. I'm sorry, but
Given that we're now part of the regional response, is it advised, do they need to have an AED in the lobby of the police department? Would
I
someone
don't-
who's having a heart attack walk into the police department for help?
yeah, I don't know. I assume so. He said 3 units in the station, right?
Yeah.
So the question would be, are they still needed?
Okay.
If so, why?
I'll still ask for clarification. I was just reading through that and
Right.
Wanted to
I
bring it
guess
to
the question would be is, can we reduce the count?
sure.
Well, I went back and looked up the agenda for the 28th. And our objective was to develop a clear and concise position on town hall, but I'm not sure we ever did that. Does anybody ever remember if we did it?
Yeah, we did write one and published one. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah. I've got a copy of it. Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did. There was a lot of emailing around too, as we added ideas.
Well, I probably would have sent it on, I would assume. I'll
Yeah, I
have to
don't think
look
we-
that up and find out what happened to it.
If not, Sam, if you can't find it, I'm sure I can.
Yeah, well, let me look through my stuff. I should have it.
Okay.
And
Sam,
I should be able to track what I did with it.
Sam, my recollection from that, it's coming back from this brain fog. My recollection was we did not intend to publish it. Our intent was to give it to Chris, let Chris elevate it to the Board of Selectmen, and have some partnership and ownership in it, as opposed to us sending it to the
Right.
Board of Selectmen directly. But I think the idea was we were only going to allow it to sit a certain amount of time. If it didn't seem to be headed in that direction,
Then we would elevate it.
then we would elevate it.
Yeah,
But
well, let me look back on track it and see what's happened with it, and I will be able to report back on Monday. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Instead of taking a guess and,
I have just pulled up the meeting minutes for the 26th of July.
yeah,
And we did received a budget update from Michelle, Fire, Recreation, and Enterprise Projects. We had a preliminary look at income and spending for fiscal year 2023. We had an update on the CBC letter to Chris Senior regarding town hall funding plan. And then we approved some minutes. We had some other items as well. And we had 4 people at the meeting.
okay.
So I can send this around if you'd like. I can forward this.
Yeah, does everybody have the minutes of the 26th of July?
I do not.
I do not, Sam. I could.
Okay, well, I'll send the draft out again because they have been, I think I sent it out once, but it's easy enough to do again.
I guess technically I probably do have them. I just haven't found them and or looked at them. So I think the blame is on me.
Right. I also just read off the second page. The first page, we had a budget update from Michelle, schools, IT, facilities, police, and then fire, recreation, and enterprise projects. So it was a very complete budget review for 2022.
Well, I will prepare myself to report next Monday on what happened to the town hall letter. And I will send the meeting, the minutes of the 26th out. They're in draft format, and then we should be ready to vote on it.
Sam,
Okay.
let me forward you what I have here because it's in a PDF form. It looks like it's final.
Oh, well, I didn't have a note that we had voted on it because this is the,
No, it's not voted, but these are the minutes.
okay, well, yeah, I've got them, Michael.
Okay.
You know, you don't have to send them to me, but I'll send them out anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody have anything else? I don't want to keep Michelle up past her bedtime.
No. Just a suggestion for this interim meeting that we're planning then for next Monday. Do we want to begin a discussion on reorganization? And actually, Sam, I would be very, very interested to hear your thoughts on a selection process, what the criteria should be. And perhaps a little history on how you became chair.
By default, I guess.
Okay, well, that's one way to do it.
I'm developing advanced CRS disease, so it's
Yeah.
hard to go too far back.
But that might make it a more full meeting.
Yeah, well, I'll put together some thoughts on it and be prepared to present them to you all, okay?
I'd
Make
appreciate it.
sense?
Yeah,
So I will entertain a motion to adjourn if anybody wants to make one.
I will move to adjourn.
Any second?
A second.
All those in favor? Sam Wakeman, aye. Mike Dick,
Mike Dick, aye.
Brian Host,
Brian Host, aye.
Francine Lyon,
Francine Lyons, aye.
Ralph Dormitzer.
Ralph Dormitzer, aye.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all
Michelle.
very much. Appreciate it. Michelle, thank you for acting as fire and police chief. You're gonna be public safety head and Chris will have to give you a raise.
Damn
Not-
straight.
Couldn't fill their shoes, just presenting their form.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too.
Have a
Take
good night.
care.
Thanks, everybody.
Watch out for the northeaster tomorrow.
Will do.
Thank you.
Bye.
Night.